Hi guys, welcome to my first actual video series on the channel. You can call me Sleep O'Clock or Sleepy, whichever sounds right to you. And we're going to start our 2000 point Chaos Demons army for Warhammer 40k. Welcome to the Demon Diaries. And here's my general Bel'akor that we're going to be making to lead my army. So I watched some content creation which has inspired me to make this army. So believe it or not, this is actually my original codex from the early 2000s. My Chaos army at the time has hit the separation where they've separated the demons and the space marines into different codexes. And I've picked up the new book to check out some of the models. I really like the old art in this codex as it's quite dark and macabre, and there's a lot more personality, I feel like, to both the models, the art, and the stories behind them. For example, this is Kugath. It's no longer Rogers. This was once a little Nurgling who fell into Papa Nurgle's cauldron of toxins and diseases. He drank it all up and there's none left, and it made him a great unclean one. Papa Nurgle loved him, but Kugath was sad that he drank all of his cauldron, so he wants to recreate the toxic miracle that made him. And there's a lot of this personality in all the models. So this art and these models of what that you see is what's inspired me. You've got the original metal bloodthirsters, the keeper of secrets, and the great unclean ones, the lords of changes. And each one looks menacing, a little goofy, but they all have that personality that I really love. And the nostalgic old models, as well as some of the content creators like Midcast and his Nagel Diaries, Squidmar, eBay Miniature Rescue, the people who have inspired me to share some of my actual passion for these old models that I feel like need some love and representation in the hobby. So I looked into the Games Workshop website and look at all these beautiful new sculpts that aren't in the codex anymore. And they're very menacing and spooky, but they're not exactly what I had in mind for my own demon army. I wanted something old that I could bring into the modern era. So that's the new Bel'akor, and look at that price tag. So I scoured eBay, found myself a nice, neat little old one to be the front man of my ensemble. So it arrived a few days later looking pristine, and something that looked like it comes straight out of a fantasy box set, if you can remember those on the shelves. So I know some of these old models notoriously don't keep together very well. They're old, they're heavy, they're metal. Most of them you have to pin with glue and green stuff, and they look like a mess. But at the minute I'm just going to super glue, use some activator, which I wish I had back in the 2000s, to kind of get a look of how Bel'akor is going to look, and so I can work around that. I'm not going to do too much to these models for my army. You may think I would kit bash them a lot, but I want the models to shine. I want them to be the centerpieces because I appreciate them. I love how they look. I love the goofy aesthetics and design team gave them these hand sculpted metal models. And I want this journey to showcase these actual beautiful models. Bel'akor made, it's time for the next step. Getting him a base. The old Bel'akor is nice, but the new one is about twice the size and his base is twice as big. It's 100mm, and so the old one that came with the one that I've purchased here just doesn't cut it anymore. So we're gonna have a look online, and I found a terrain piece which I'm going to resize and restructure with the appropriate dimensions to fit the current one up to the scale of the new one. So after winging resizes on my software, I set off to 3D print the new base for my new demon prince. So it looks like it's cooked and it's done. And here are the pieces for the base for my Bel'akor model. So what you can see is that it's probably not cured enough based on these white spots. Well, it's cured, but it hasn't been cleaned properly before it was cured. But it shouldn't really be too noticeable once it's spray painted and it's been cleaned a bit more. You'll also notice that the proportions that I've winged, which I probably shouldn't have, aren't correct. And so the pieces are a bit misaligned. So what I'm going to do is, because the front of the base is double the width of the others, instead of wasting more resin to reprint it, I'm just going to bash it together until I find a solution. Or as I call it, it's not really a flaw, it's just building character. So I'll begin by creating holes to insert a paper clip. I'm going to try and pin it to dry fit the pieces together. So I've been playing Warhammer for a good 15 to 20 years. I started with Chaos Demons and Tyrannids. I got rid of both of them, unfortunately, when I started to quit when I went to university. And coming back into the hobby a couple of years ago, I went full into it. I have a good Orcs project coming in, which should do videos soon. I've got a large army of Pirate Orcs that I've been slowly working on and off on for a few years. This is my Chaos getting back into it. And I have a very large Tyrannid army that I've took to tournaments and I'm in love with it. It's Leviathan themed. So getting back to the project, obviously you can see that I'm trying to create holes at a very snail's pace to insert paper clips to try and dry fit in pieces, and my hand drill snuck inside of the base. One Amazon package later, my new automated hand drill has arrived and I feel very cool now because of this. Wow. I do have to confess the thing came in Gundam Warhammer-like packaging in parts, which I didn't expect it to. And it took me 2 hours to put together and get working, which I'm not proud to confess. Not my proudest moment, but instead of that, you got a lovely 10-second clip of me magically putting it together through the power of editing. So after intentionally incorrectly printing the pieces, I've decided that my plan of action was to attach them together the best they could fit, and then raising the back end of the base to come in line with the front portion of the steps via plasticard. And hey, the base looks large, but the large size and spikes are to compensate for the difference in size between the old and new Bel'akor, and it gives them a bit of a grandiose appearance. I marked around the base I needed with a marker. I traced the outline and then I cut it into a rough shape with a Stanley knife. It didn't really have to be perfect, because the way I'm doing it makes it a bit more unique, and I can work with the lines and odd angles that it creates to add towards the base, and making it fit the base perfectly is a bit needless and a bit of a waste of time. So I ended up attaching them together with super glue, and once that super glue dried, I covered up the seams between the plasticard and the base, as well as the gaps created during the printing. So I used blobs of milliput, and I ended up shaping these with tools to represent rocks and boulders, hopefully a bit in keeping with the aesthetic of the rest of the print. I then fit on Bel'akor, a bit of a dry fit to make sure his position was good and that his peg was suitable for him to stand on, and he was on there flat, he didn't look jagged or awkward, and obviously I broke parts of him while doing this. It's only natural to break things as you're trying to make things. This looks a little odd. But what happened at this stage was that I realised although the size was close to new Bel'akor, the base was far too big and awkward to move on a game board, as my end intention is for these models to be played with, to have fun with. So what I decided to do is that I can't shrink the sides down. I couldn't remove the sides, but I can remove a portion of the front to allow it to fit better between the buildings and the pieces of the map. I ended up taking the back portion of the steps off that was connecting originally to the model, as the front steps ground a bit more and would not just cut off flat. It also allows for a bit of a neater oval shape instead of a more T-shaped, which I feel is a bit more natural, and it doesn't awkwardly fit and position models into it and around it for gameplay purposes. After reducing the base size, it in turn created my next problem, which was that the size of the ends of the steps was too thin, and so itself needed a bit of plasticard to put it in line with the rest of the base. Thankfully, this is a bit easily done, and I've had a lot of practice with it doing the previous bit. Now that I'm happy with the new shape of the base, the only thing to do was to cover up the new seams and gaps with green stuff. I feel like my milliput last time didn't really harden properly. It was a little dried up because it was opened, so I threw that away and I've moved to green stuff instead. I feel like I'm not a very polished builder or editor like a lot of the other YouTubers that I'm currently watching. For me, building and kit bashing models are a bit more of a feeling and art. I feel when it's right and I want it to look cool. I do make a lot of mistakes, and so I'll leave them in there to show, even though you can struggle building something or kit bashing something like I have in this video, and it makes you want to give up midway through, like I did in this video, by perceiving that you can keep pushing through, and by the end you'll have something really good as a result, something pretty epic. It's worth it, and I hope it inspires people like someone's inspired me. While I'm building up the base in the background, guys, I just wanted to say, this is my first time editing a video, so please, if you've got any tips on editing or even the content itself, just let me know. Anything to do with the quality of the audio, I'd love to try and make it better for next time. What you see now is that I'm just removing some of the residual glue from my once broken Bel'akor to slightly reposition the parts to how I want them. Because the base has changed, I can reposition it so he's facing the right direction and posed correctly. I have a little bit of leftover green stuff to make him a bit more durable in this position and to enhance and strengthen his connections and his joints. I think I have a few really cool ideas this stage for Bel'akor. I think I have a few really cool ideas to make Bel'akor really pop out when it comes to painting it. But with that being said, I have the building work for the base and Bel'akor now done. So it's time to give them a nice zenithal highlight. This is my favourite type of way to spray paint a model. It's just with a black spray paint to get all the dark shadows, and then on top of it a white spray paint to simulate the highlights and the way the direction of light would be facing to bring out all the details in the model to make them pop and easier to paint. It's the last stage usually before painting, and what I consider what ties the model together and actually looks like something that you can play on the tabletop. With everything that's happened in this video, guys, I think we've reached the end of the Demon Diaries episode 1, and for the last time, thank you for watching. I give you the leader of my demon army, Bel'akor, Dark Master.